From Chris Brown's latest arrest to Conrad Murray's recent release, celebrities are no strangers to run-ins with the law.
Thankfully, it keeps us entertained. Here to discuss the legal ramifications of these high-profile cases is entertainment lawyer Lisa Bonner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Now, girl, let's start with Chris Brown.
Oh.
Okay. Yes, getting in trouble with the law again.
Again.
He allegedly punched a man in the face outside of a D.C. hotel Sunday. He's been charged with felony assault and is appearing in court today. Now, what is he charged with? Is it felony assault?
He is, yes, charged with felony assault.
Okay.
And basically, like we said, for allegedly punching someone in the face. And the issue is that someone allegedly photobombed them, and then he got upset and took it out on these poor people.
Now, he's actually under probation currently, so doesn't this, interfere with his probation rules and regulations, and how would that affect him and this case?
Well, yes, he is on probation, and remember a couple years ago, he had his probation revoked for a hit and run, and he had to serve community service, and he allegedly, there's some issue of whether or not he actually served the 1,000 hours of community service, but they can actually revoke his probation again, or they could just send him directly to jail. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. He could go right back to jail, because probation basically is that you are out pending, your good behavior, and he has a history of not such good behavior.
Yeah.
So if we're placing bets, I can tell by the look on your face, it doesn't look too good for Mr. Brown here. What are we saying? Placing bets, what's going to happen?
Normally, I would say that he would go right back to jail, but the courts have really been on his side for some reason. I thought he would have gone back to jail a while ago. I'm surprised he didn't, but maybe this time the courts have had it with him. So, it's the incident that happened here with the nightclub was in New York, but this is in D.C., so it really is going to depend of,
Okay, so how much jail time could he face, and is he facing jail time for breaking probation or for the assault? Because usually assault, you just get, a fine, right?
Right, but he can, I believe it's up to 4 years in prison.
Wow.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, he could go right back to jail in California.
Okay.
Now, I have to ask, I don't know what happened, but is Chris Brown, how much is he being penalized for the Rihanna incident?
Still.
Well, I think if you look at Chris Brown's behavior, I don't really think that he's being penalized for it, because if that's the case, he would have, if it were up to me and I were the judge and judges have discretion, I would have probably sent him right back to jail. But he's, like I said before, he's been out. And he had the incident on GMA where he tore up the set after a series of questions. He had the nightclub brawl with Drake last year, and then he had a beef with Frank Ocean and some type of studio riff. So, the courts seem to go out of their way to show that he's being treated like anybody else. But didn't Drake start that fight?
Well,
who knows?
You can't spit letters across bottles and talking about people's ex-girlfriends.
And irrespective, if I'm on probation, I'm going to be on my best behavior.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
So maybe that's the lesson that comes out of this. Be on your best behavior, and you won't have to worry about going to jail at all.
There you have it.
All right, so let's move on. Speaking of jail time, Conrad Murray was just released from prison after serving 2 of his 4 years for being, accused, or actually, I guess, found guilty and whatever happened in giving Michael Jackson the medication that led to his death.
Yes.
So how is this even possible that he can get out 2 whole years early?
Well, he wasn't released 2 whole years early. According to the California penal system, he gets time served. And remember, he was in jail awaiting trial for a while, and so he got credit for time served.
So he got back time for that time he was waiting.
Yes, he did.
But still, he didn't serve his full sentence.
According to the courts, he did.
Oh, according to the courts, because he got good behavior. Is that
time served. He was day for day while he was awaiting jail time.
Do you think he served enough time?
According to the courts, according to the statutes.
No, girl, you.
Well, it's hard to say because, I'm often asked this question with legal questions. What's legal is not always fair, and I have to remind people of that. And with my legal hat on, according to the statutes and according to what the sentencing guidelines are, yes. But in my personal opinion, he was charged with acute propofol intoxication of a patient. How would you not realize, that by you serving a cocktail of prescription medications, propofol, all of these other issues, that you would not somehow cause acute bodily harm to a patient.
Now, let me ask, do you think he should have been prosecuted for second-degree murder or instead of manslaughter? And what's the difference?
Well, I think the issue here is what the courts thought, because you have a much higher standard. You still have to show certain instances of willfulness, and and I think that they didn't want to overshoot like they did in the George Zimmerman case. Although one was in California, one is in Texas, they're really similar. I mean, the issues that you have to prove in involuntary manslaughter and second-degree and first-degree murder are somewhat similar in most states. And I really think that they probably did the right thing here, because at least he got something versus nothing. George Zimmerman is walking around and getting tickets in every state.
Right.
And at least Conrad Murray did serve some time. Now, whether we think it is enough, I don't know.
Well, at this point, he's trying to get his license back, and it's already been suspended in several states. Is it possible he could go to a state where his license is not suspended and actually get it back?
Well, he has to. I'm not really sure about how it works with the medical board. I know with the legal board, it's very, very difficult. If you were disbarred for something, some type of reason, it would be very difficult. But he is licensed to practice, I believe, in California and California, Nevada, and Texas. And so you have to be licensed in that state. So it's very difficult you have to pass certain boards. So you just can't decide, well, I'm suspended in Nevada, so I want to go ahead and practice in Missouri. You still have to take the medical boards. And it's a very challenging process that you have to show that you are fit to practice to practice medicine. And you have the Hippocratic Oath, which he broke. In all instances, do no harm. And he did. Right. So, he's got an uphill battle, but if he is, likely to get his license back, I do believe, sadly, that people will go to him because he is infamous.
All right. Well,
and, people don't, it's my celebrity doctor, Michael Jackson.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, from the king of pop to the king of the civil rights movement, Quincy Jones is suing the Jackson estate. What is that about?
Yeah.
They were like friends. They were like best friends.
Yes, it is sad.
We are the world.
Yeah. Well, I think this really all comes down to money. I mean, Michael Jackson has made so much, the Michael Jackson estate, has made so much posthumously off of his recordings. And I believe this issue stems from the way the edits were placed in, I guess, Cirque du Soleil and a couple of other, This Is It. And so generally, I have not read the case, but generally when something like this happens, it's governed by a contract. And what happens is if you have, in this contract, if you have certain people that need to come in, remix and re-edit it, you are generally allowed to take down the royalties that are otherwise payable to the original producer. And then that will reduce your royalties. So that's what he's saying. Hey, you improperly edited me out of this, and I was entitled to producer royalties. But again, the contract serves. So it really will be what the contract says. And this is an older case. So, some of these issues were not around in the earlier contracts because everything has been, with the 80-page recording contracts that we have now, everything that has been tried has been re-edited, and so we have new contracts. But this is something that's from, years ago, so we'll see how it turns out. But, and you have the statute of limitations issue as well. You have a statute of limitations in California in New York, it's, generally 3 to 6 years or something like that. So it's
Now, but we'll hope for the best.
Yeah, and I mixed up the stories earlier. That was the king of pop, but now we're moving from the king of pop to the king of the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, because of Harry Belafonte. I was like, what? But then now I got it. So many court cases to keep up with today. Okay, so Harry Belafonte, yes, he's actually being sued. He's suing. What's going on with this whole case in Martin Luther King?
Well, this is an instance where he allegedly was given documents by Coretta Scott King. Of course, she's no longer here to verify whether or not she did pass these along, but Dr. King was known for giving out copies of his speeches or the original speeches to people that are within the civil rights community, kind of just to keep the legacy going. And he wasn't a hoarder of his documents. So people that have looked at this case says, it's not unusual for Dr. King to give away his speeches. And Harry Belafonte had lent him money, and he was a financial resource for him and a very close friend. And so since Dr. King had given these things before away to various people, it wouldn't be unlikely in this instance that he may have given something to Harry Belafonte, who was his friend.
Now, since they are in his possession, is there a certain amount of time where he becomes the rightful owner?
There is a statute of limitations, and in New York, it's 3 years. From the time it was established that he had these documents. But, you know, this is kind of an uphill battle for the King family because they are very notorious for going after and prosecuting other civil rights cases, civil rights leaders who have had his documents. And he had an issue where they had an issue where he sued Boston University. They sued Boston University for the recovering of the documents, and they lost. It was, you know, you have to really prove that you had improper possession. And the two people that could really state this are Coretta Scott King and Dr. King, and they're gone.
Right.
So we really don't know. But they did lose. They were not successful in the case with Boston University. So they've got kind of an uphill battle.
So as right now, he can't auction those off until the court case is cleared
Sotheby's
up.
doesn't want to be responsible, and they don't want the King estate coming after them and saying, you know, you knew that this was going on, so they're just holding them in safekeeping, which I believe is the right thing to do.
Gotcha. All right.
Well, let me ask you. Okay,
Yes.
let's get into it. Now, the voice judge. This is a little more somber, I feel like,
Yeah.
because the voice judge CeeLo was arraigned. Let me get this right, on the charge of furnishing a controlled substance, ecstasy, to a woman who also accused him of sexually assaulting her last year. CeeLo says he is innocent. What do prosecutors need to do to prove he's guilty?
Well, it's pretty much a three-step process. You have to prove that they furnished it, which is difficult because unless somebody saw him do it, or how do you really prove that you furnished it and that she wasn't on ecstasy before the date? How do you know that? And they have to prove that he furnished it, that he knew it was a controlled substances, and there was a usable amount to cause damage. But they're already having trouble with the case because they said, hey, you know what, come back and see us in November and you're free to walk on a pretty reasonable bail.
Wow.
So they declined to prosecute and bring a rape charge against her because there was insufficient evidence. And already they're saying in this case there's insufficient evidence as well.
Who do you side with?
I want to side with CeeLo.
Okay.
I mean, because you got to be really, I mean, he's got so much going for him right now. I mean, he doesn't need to slip somebody ecstasy in order to, you know, have a good time with them. I mean, he can get a date. It's not like he has to do that. I mean, I don't buy it, but. And apparently the prosecutors
Even though rape
aren't.
is about power,
Right,
not necessarily about access, but
and I want to be clear about that. I want to.
We're hoping.
Right,
We're hoping. It's
right.
too many brothers in lawsuits. We can't do it. We can't do it.
Right, and I want to be very clear about that.
No, I know
something
what you mean.
is fishy, and the prosecutors
Right.
are already, you know, casting a very suspicious eye already. So that's
Right.
why I'm saying that about the rape.
All right, well, we'll keep a close eye on
Yeah.
all these cases, and if
Thank
anything
you.
develops, you'll come back and break the news here, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me
All
again.
right, thank you. And you're watching Arise Entertainment 360.